Hello again, welcome back. I'm Angela from artorai.co.uk. I've got a little crafting haul today from Crafty Fair. I have been watching videos about Distress Oxide inks. I've never had any because they are quite pricey, but Crafty Fair had, I don't know if it was a sale, but they had bundles of inks where you could buy them, and it worked out cheaper than buying them singly. So I haven't had a look at them yet because I can't remember the ones I ordered. So I'm going to take these out. So what do we have? Speckled egg, crackling campfire. These are all colours that I have seen, and they are really bright and vibrant. Lovely actually. Kitsch flamingo. Interesting. I've said it before, I'd love to be the one who names all of these. Lumberjack plaid. Salvaged patina. I do like the greens and the blues. I can't do anything with those. Let me see what else is in here. Oh, what's this? Oh, I'd forgotten I'd ordered a 3D embossing folder. Oh yes, I'm looking forward to using that. I've been watching videos on embossing folders and the things you can do with the 3D ones, so that should actually go well with these new inks, so I should put that to one side. Probably do a video on that later. Yeah, that seems to be the only embossing folder I've ordered. This is Scorched Timber. I think I have one similar to that. I'll have to have a look. I've got 3 Distress Oxides. That's all I have apart from these. So what's this one? Saltwater Taffy. That's very pretty. I like that one. Look, these peanuts are going everywhere. Prize ribbon. A nice vibrant blue that looks. Rustic wilderness. That'll be really nice on the flowers and trees, I imagine. Lost shadow. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, it's like a very light grey. That looks really nice. And Uncharted Mariner, another really lovely blue there. So, yep, that's it, unfortunately. Like I said, they are quite pricey. But I think it will be worth it, because if you do a lot of cards and other projects, I think it's worth comparing Distress Oxides with other inks. Now, from the research that I've done and some of the videos I've watched, the beauty about these is not only do they interact with water, the water activated, so you can get some beautiful patterns if you splash water on the inks when you've done it. They're supposed to blend better, and unlike other inks, like normal inks which sink into the paper or the card, these kind of sit on top of it, and when they're dried you can sort of put layer after layer on top, and they're not going to sort of merge together into that horrible sludgy brown colour. So I think what I'll do is I will do a comparison. I'll do a bit more research and I'll do a bit of a comparison between these inks and the other inks that I have, just to see how well they compare. So I'm going to do that now. So I'll be back once I've looked into these a little bit more and I finally know what I'm talking about. I'll see you later. Okay, I'm back. I have had a very interesting afternoon researching the different inks and Distress Oxide inks in particular, as I said I was going to. And what I've discovered, I've written a few notes so I can try and remember them, or else I wouldn't otherwise. You've got your Distress Oxide, you have, I've only got little ones of these. You've got your Distress inks, you have other kinds of ink like Stampin' Up. So the Stampin' Up pads and the Distress inks are dye-based inks. The Distress Oxide is what they call it, a fusion between dye and pigment ink. So there were a lot of advantages to the Distress Oxide which I hadn't appreciated before now, because I was in two minds as to whether to actually buy Distress Oxide, because I have that many inks now, that many different kinds of inks. I thought I didn't need them. I was wrong. I was going to show you. So your dye-based inks, for instance, where's my little test paper? So for instance, say you wanted to blend or use your dye-based inks. Now your dye-based inks are translucent and they do soak into the paper for the most part. So you can see all the texture there of the paper or the card, which is fine if that's what you're looking for. I mean, that's absolutely fine. But as I know from previous experience, they are very difficult to blend together. It can be done, but I'm not a blending expert by any means. But I know some people who are, and they can get some lovely blends using Stampin' Up ink pads and using Distress inks. They're really wonderful, but I didn't even try it on this because I've tried it before and it did not go well. But if that's the look you are looking for, the textured look, then by all means do that. I mean, I've done it before. I've covered a piece of card in with a brush and ink, a stamping ink, and made it into a card, and it looked absolutely fine, quite grungy, which I liked. So the Distress Oxides, because they are a cross between pigment and dye, you really have the best of both worlds, because your pigment inks, they mostly stay on the surface of the card. So you are going to get a much, I think anyway, a much better coverage and a much better blend. So for instance, I did have a go. Well, I've told you I am not a blending expert or a blending queen. This is my first attempt at blending, and it did go well. If you'd see my other blends with the other dye-based inks that I have, you would realise this is much better. But the beauty about your Distress Oxides as well is that reacts with water really well. So that's what you can see there. I was just having a bit of an experiment, a bit of a practice. But that has blended a lot better. Still not great, but better than I could normally do. So then I had another go, and that blended a little bit better still. But I don't know if you can see how beautifully it covers on the surface. Really nice. So I was a little bit happier with that. Then I got out the dark colours, the blues, and look how beautifully that's blended. I mean, it's still not perfect by any means. You can still see the line there, but I was absolutely over the moon with that. And look how beautiful. I wish you could see it without the light coming through the window, because it's still not perfect, but you get an absolutely fantastic coverage. Because I have learned that when blending, it's best to soak just put loads and loads and loads of ink on, just like soak the surface, so you don't get these little patchy bits. And then I'm gonna show you what I did to blend these two colours. I have actually ordered some more brushes. Right, this is the one I used for my dye-based ink. Apparently you are not supposed to get your brushes mixed up. I'm not sure why. I shall have to look into that. But these are the ones I've been using for my Distress Oxides, and these are the only brushes I have spare at the moment, but I have ordered some more. So what I'm going to do is pick another couple of inks. I haven't used that one yet. And that's another pretty blue. So I think I'll use that one. And I'm going to find another piece of scrap card. Apparently the smoother the surface, the better blend you will get. Excuse me, I have ink all over my fingers, which is getting onto the card. But I'm just absolutely loading the brush and then putting a mountain of it on the card, just to really soak that card there, get a really good coverage. I'm very gently going to go into the blue area. Going to load some more onto the blue and just smaller lighter circles into that red. You can see it's taken a purplish, it's turning a purplish colour now in the middle where it's blending. So if you stay within that line, that area, and don't put your brush any further down or up, and it should start blending just in that area, and you shouldn't get any transfer onto the other parts of the card. And just keep doing that as often as you like until you get the blend that you like. It's not brilliant. I think these colours are quite difficult to mix together, but you sort of get the idea. You can go a bit further down into the red there, and you do get what's a nice blend, I think. Not perfect, but I've never claimed to have perfect blending capabilities. But you can see, I mean, like I said, it's not perfect. You can still see sort of the lines. Now, because the Distress Oxides are water based, you can get some really nice effects when you add water to it. Now you can add it with a tool, you can add it with your hands, you can add it with a paintbrush. Use a paintbrush. I think the fan brushes are better for these, but just to give you an idea of what you can do. You see how that's reacting beautifully. So to be honest, it doesn't really matter if your blending isn't perfect, because you can get a really nice background and cover up the imperfections. And you can either wait for that to dry on its own, you can heat dry it, or you can take some kitchen roll and take off the excess yourself. And look at that, isn't that gorgeous? So that would make a really, really nice background to a card, wouldn't it? And there are different things you can do with backgrounds. I mean, you wouldn't have to just plonk that on a card as a background if you didn't want to. You could die cut it. You could have it as a pattern behind a window card. You know, you could do all sorts with it, really. That's something else I wanted to say, was that this ink, the pigment ink, or the Distress Oxide inks, stay wetter or wet for longer. So if you wanted to heat emboss with clear embossing powder, you could just heat emboss over the ink if you were fast enough. Now I'm going to have a go and see how well it stamps. Where's my stamp? I've just had it. Oh, here it is. I'm going to use this. I have no idea where I got it from. Sentimentally Yours, it's called. So I'll use a stamp I haven't used before, which is why it's struggling to come off. I'll actually use my stamping platform with this. So this is Rustic Wilderness. I've never used this. In fact, I've never used Distress Oxides for anything before, so I think I've dabbled with the odd little project, but I've never really looked into it like this before. So I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't even think I've stamped with it. I can't remember doing it anyway. Perhaps I should have used white card instead of ivory, but we'll have a look anyway. Oh yeah, that gives a nice image there. And the beauty about a stamping platform is you can just keep going over it and over it as often as you need to. Yeah, that's stamped really nicely. A nice crisp image there. Yeah, that's lovely. So I'm going to put this away for now, because there was something else that I wanted to mention. As I said before, the difference between your dye inks is because we said the dye inks are translucent and they sink more into the paper. So I'll show you this black. Now this is quite a light colour. This is Calypso Coral. And if you want to put that on black or stamp on black, well, that's what you're going to get, because it's very translucent. You can barely see it at all. If if you can see that. You can't even see the colour. Now if I wanted to use perhaps something similar, Crackling Campfire, this is quite similar to that. They're both orange, I think, or peach. And look at the difference, because that is just going to sit, it's opaque, and that is just going to sit on top. For the most part, it's going to sit on top of the card. I mean, look at the difference. And as I said, that takes longer to dry. You can see it's still quite moist there. So I could heat emboss that if I want, put some clear powder on and heat emboss it for a really lovely effect. So that's another thing as well. If you're using dark card, I would strongly suggest the Distress Oxides, because you're just not going to be able to get a print otherwise, unless you're using embossing powder, heat embossing it. I mean, I often use inks, any ink, to create like a watercolour effect. So you can do the same with your Distress Oxides. I'm going to use Saltwater Taffy because I just like the name. Put a little bit on there, a little bit of water, you don't need loads, and then you can either tap it on the background. What would it look like on here? Yeah, I think that looks really cute. Very subtle effect there on the dark background. I quite like, oh, I do like that. Don't know if you can see it. Very subtle. It's more it's more reacting with the water, I think. But yeah, you can do that, or you can paint with it, because it's just going to sit on top. Or mostly, because it is, even though it's watered down, you're still going to get a lot of that pigment sitting on top of the card like that. So yeah, so you can use them as watercolours. I've seen some beautiful videos, I'll see if I can find them, where people have made absolutely amazing backgrounds with these, but they use Distress Oxide ink, like the liquid inks, but I'm sure you could do the same with the ink pads. I mean, look at that. I mean, you could do wonders with that, couldn't you, if you did that all over? If you put a load of that on there and just soaked it up on the paper there, you can get all kinds of nice effects. So I'm not going to go, this is just an introduction to Distress Oxide ink, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I'm not going to do any projects or anything like that, but if you are interested in seeing a project made with Distress Oxide inks, I'd be more than happy to have a go and show you whether pass or fail. So please do let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. In the meantime, do give them a go. I'm sure you can get them on eBay, you can get them on Amazon, you can get them all over the place. You can get them from branded crafting stores everywhere. They are the Tim Holtz Distress Oxide inks, and I thoroughly recommend them. After this today, I really do recommend them. So whatever you decide, if you do make any projects with your Distress Oxides, I'd be very, very interested to know about them. So do drop me a comment, and if you're interested in joining a Facebook group where we can all share off our own creations, either using my tutorials or not, it's entirely up to you, then please let me know that as well. Just a quick update before I sign off. I used this beautiful new embossing folder that I showed you earlier, and I cut out with an oval die one of the blended pieces of card that I did, and I just think it's turned out really beautifully. That blending looks really subtle when you put it through the embossing folder. I just think that's turned out really nice, so I'll probably do the same with this one, because it takes away, embossing seems to take away the harsh edges of the blending lines, so I'll probably do that anyway. So that's just something that you can do with these inks, just one little thing. You can make all kinds of beautiful backgrounds with them. Strangely enough, the one thing I do not have in my stash are plain nesting dies. So these oval dies are the only ones I have with the jagged edge around there, which is weird, because I thought I had everything but the kitchen sink. But never mind, that's next on my list, to get some proper nesting dies anyway. But in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye bye now.